Here's a thought, okay? You have the reality that you wake up to believing every morning. You believe you're going to wake up to that same reality every morning, and you have it. Joe Dispenza really talks a lot about this, and he wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. If you're looking outside of yourself to others, psychics, mediums, indie ears, religious figures, the scriptures, whatever, if you're looking all outside yourself to find predictions and how the future is going to go, you're looking in vain. You need to look within and literally act according to your desired future, my friends. Hello, my friends. I'm out here on this crisp winter morning, the day after Christmas, and I actually wasn't going to make a video this week because of the holidays and so on and so forth, but I woke up this morning with this on my mind. I want to give everybody hope for the future, or anybody who doesn't have hope for the future. I want to give you some hope for the future, my friends. And the words that were on my mind when I woke up this morning, enough to wake up and write them down rather than just try to go back to sleep like I would normally do. And I wrote them down and said, I was going to make just a meme, and put it out on Facebook, but then all of this, the floodgates kind of opened, and so I started writing things down, and I thought I need to make a video of this, and I need to do it now while the spirit of it is still with me. And this kind of inspiration comes, oftentimes in the early mornings in that twilight zone before you are fully awake. And I believe that's from your higher self. And that's why, and it pertains to things that have been on my mind on and off, but, the brain is kind of like a computer. It sorts it all out, and then you wake up one morning and you go, oh, okay, this is how, and this is not stuff that's new to me, but it was just some thoughts that I felt impressed I needed to share. I've just been thinking about, there's all kinds of predictions for the future out there, with mediums and psychics and indie ears and mystics and, self-proclaimed prophets and religious people and so on and so forth. And a lot of these predictions are a dire future, things are going to get bad. We're going to have this dystopian future and so on and so forth. But I want to remind you that equally there's as many predictions from the same types of people, all the different types of people, of a bright future. And I'm one of those who predicts a bright future. So why is that? So it has to do with reality creation, my friends. Okay, you've heard me talk about this before. Now, I've had people say to me that they think that what I'm talking about is just, it's something cool to talk about or exciting to talk about and this and that. But I want you to know that I speak from experience, my friends. Oh, I actually forgot to tell you the words that came to my mind. I just got going on this. But the words, so I wrote them down. It says, and if people clamor for predictions of the future, forget that. Simply act according to your desired future, okay? And that's Neville Goddard, Joe Dispenza 101. So anyways, people think it's just a novelty, but I speak from experience, my friends. I have focused my attention to a certain outcome for the future and had it happen. I can't deny that. I can't go back. So why are these different predictions out there? Why do the mediums and the psychics and the indie ears and so on have opposing views on this? Well, here's my take on it. I believe that it's because their experiences are colored by their current mindset. Now, if you don't believe that we are the creators of our reality, you're going to reject this. And I get it. I rejected it for many, many years until I experienced it myself. And once you experience it, you can't go back. Nobody's going to convince me that I'm not responsible for the reality I create. Here's a thought, okay? You have the reality that you wake up to believing every morning. You believe you're going to wake up to that same reality every morning, and you have it. Joe Dispenza really talks a lot about this, and he wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And so here's the beauty of all of this, really, is just test it out. You don't have to take my word for it, or think I'm crazy or whatever. That's fine. Try it out. Try something simple. Neville Goddard's ladder technique. I would suggest you read some Neville Goddard or some Joe Dispenza or what have you, but you can just do something simple. Like Neville's ladder technique basically is you, for 3 nights in a row, just before you fall asleep, you picture a ladder in your mind, okay? Even if you don't own a ladder. And then after three nights doing that, falling asleep, you just kind of forget about it. And a ladder will show up in your reality some way or another. Okay, that's a simple one. I remember reading somebody who tested this out with a blue frog, I think it was. He said, okay, I'm going to test this out, all right? I'm going to see a blue frog, which is a little more difficult, right? Because how often do you see a blue frog? Frogs are usually green, right? So anyways, within a few days, he went into a store somewhere or something, and there was a blue frog on the shelf, that kind of thing. That's a simple way to test it out. One of the ways that I've tested it out, one of the first ways I tested it out is I had a greenhouse and a wind had blown off some of the panels to it. And those panels are expensive. And I wasn't wanting to spend the money on them. And I thought, those panels are around here somewhere on the farm, right? They blew somewhere. And I have a big pond, and so I thought for sure they were in the pond. And so I just pictured for about 3 days or so walking into that greenhouse, and the panels were sitting there inside the greenhouse. And lo and behold, in a couple of days, I was walking out to the mailbox, and on the grass next to some sheds that I have there that I walk by or drive by almost daily, there sat the panels. There's no way I could have ever missed them. No wind had come up to blow them back in there. They literally magically appeared. Now I know people hear stories like that and they're like, yeah, right, oh, sure. And I get it because you didn't experience it. You're skeptical because I'm always the open-minded skeptic myself. So that's why I say you have to try it yourself and pick something small. Reality Creation 101. Pick something small and focus on it. The falling asleep technique where just before you're ready to fall asleep, you picture it in your mind. Do that 3 nights in a row or so, and then forget about it. And it'll show up in your reality. It's that simple. That was the first one. Since then, I've done other things. Now, am I perfect at it? Of course not. I tend to, just like everybody else, fall back to my cultural programming of we're just victims and circumstances happen and there's nothing we can do about it. Let me say something about that too. When you believe that you're a victim of circumstances and there's nothing you can do about it, there isn't anything you can do about it because you're creating that reality. Okay? And it denies the power to change your life, to change things. Okay? You ever had this thought in your head? It's like everything I do turns to shit. Everything I do, nothing goes right for me. If you think that and you do that on a regular basis, does your reality reflect that? And these are all simple things that you can look at your own life and see there's something going on here. Now let's get into quantum physics for a minute. Okay, the observer effect, the double slit experiment, entanglement. Okay, the double slit experiment teaches us that nothing happens without an observer. So who's the observer? God? Or some malevolent evil being that's putting all these terrible circumstances in your life? Could be, but it's not. It's you. You're the observer. To collapse the wave into a particle, collapse the waveform, as Joe Dispenza likes to talk about. Okay? So the ancient wisdom has been teaching this sort of thing for millennia, and now quantum physics is finally starting to catch up. So anyways, folks, this is what my talk about the timelines were. We can choose a dystopian timeline, or we can choose a love, non-fear-based timeline, a bright future. And of course, I choose the bright future, and nobody's going to convince me otherwise because I have experienced creating my own reality. That's where it comes from. It's not some novel thing that I just think is cool and I'm buying into it and nothing ever happens. I work at it on a regular basis. And like I said, I'm not perfect at it. Like my friend Allison, who I interviewed a little while ago, talked about, because people always want money. We talked about the money thing, right? She said the first thing to do is to not make it about the money. And so if you're always thinking, gee, I don't have any money, I don't have any money, I don't have any money, well, how's your reality reflecting? or I'm a victim of this or that. Okay, let's say you actually are a victim of something. Something random happens. You're driving down the road and a meteor hits the front of your car and destroys it. Okay, that would seem like a pretty random act. It's like, no way, I created that, right? Okay, all right. I'm not going to argue with you and say that you created that, but let's look at what's the way forward. The way forward is to still not act like a victim. It's like, okay, what do we do? The way forward is, well, let's get the car out of there, let's get it fixed or get it totaled and get the insurance and get a new car and move forward. The victim mindset says, oh, this kind of shit always happens to me and there's nothing I can do about it and I might as well not even try anymore, some of that. That's the victim mindset. So the way forward, whether you're really a victim of something or not, is to not play the victim anymore. Yeah, sure. If something happens to you, you can lament about it and feel those feelings. I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying try to deny that it happened or something like that, or pretend it didn't happen. Sit with the feelings and then move forward. That's how you get out of the victim mindset. So even if you don't agree with me, so I personally think we're not victims of anything, and we create all our realities in some conscious thought or some thought that we buried or haven't thought about in a long time. It manifests eventually. Everything manifests. The scriptures say that your words will not come back to you void. So your words have power. We have more power than we think. We are powerful beings, my friend. I wanted to give you hope for the future because you actually control your future more than you think, more than you know. And if you don't believe that, that's fine. Test it out. Test it out. Try the blue frog experiment or the ladder experiment. I'm doing this outside because my beautiful wife is still sleeping. She woke up early and then went back to bed to get a few more sleep because we had a big day yesterday. We had grandkids over and family over for Christmas Day and dinner and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people are despairing about the future. And so I'm telling you, you can change that. So try the reality creation simple and get some experience with it. And then you'll have a better time. Like I said, you won't be able to go back. I cannot deny what happened when I decided to find my greenhouse panel. That sounds like an insignificant thing, but I have since done many other things to create my reality, and it's worked. And then there's times when I've had my doubts and things, and it didn't work. But I knew why it didn't work because of that, okay? And I still do that. I'm not perfect at it. Like my friend Allison says, when you find yourself falling out of the state of the intent, just bring your thoughts and your mind back to it and don't beat yourself up for it. That's what a lot of people do. Oh man, I blew it. I had doubts, and so that's why things didn't go the way I wanted them to. It's like, So, and I always tell people, you're creating it. You're doing it yourself. You're creating your reality already. Your majority thoughts, if they're negative, are going to have a negative outcome in your life. And you can keep track of your thoughts for a week or two. Like I've said, write them down and then compare them to your life. If you're always complaining, I'm always the victim, bad stuff's always happening to me, nothing ever goes right in my life, and this and that. And I've been there, folks. I'm speaking from experience here too. That's what your life will reflect. And that's what our future will reflect collectively. I will not buy into the thought form that we're going to have a dystopian future. And that speaks to the split timeline, so to speak, too. Somebody on my last video where I talked about that said, yeah, that's crazy to think that. One of the comments is, and I get it. Yeah, it sounds crazy. But if we are the creators of our reality, it's our choice. We can choose the dystopian timeline or we can choose the bright future timeline. For a long time, I felt like, these were competing timelines and we had to get the majority to think one way or the other in order to experience one or the other. But both of those timelines exist and you will be able to experience whichever one you choose is what I now believe, okay? So Neville Goddard says the whole world is you pushed out, and I've always had a hard time with that too. I think he says that for effect, because what really matters is your timeline. And the scriptures talk about standing in the holy place, though the whole world and the storms rage around you, so to speak. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And the ancient wisdom talks about that too. So you could be at peace, when everything else is raging around you. Ever seen anybody like that? Everybody else is freaking out and the one person is at peace. And so that comes with that inner knowing and the inner knowing of who and what you are and how things work in this world, at least to a certain degree. I'm not claiming to know everything, and I don't think anybody does. Even the NDEers out there don't know it all. Some NDEers tend to think that their experience is the be-all, end-all, yet you have other NDEers that contradict some of the things that they saw in their NDE, you know? So, I mean, and I've studied hundreds of those too. But I don't just go on that, on what I've read and heard from other people. I have my own experiences, okay? I've had some profound experiences in meditation, and that's why I speak the way I do, okay? Through my own experience. When I read other people's experiences, their NDEs or psychics or mediums or whatever, I see corroboration with some of the things that I've experienced, okay? And so that's why I talk about them. And I think they're important. I think they all have an important part to play in bringing down knowledge and opening things up, which is why I'm doing these videos. This knowledge needs to come into the more mainstream consciousness. But you might say, yeah, well, Blaine, there's a whole bunch of contradictions there though too. Yeah, that's right, because we have to weed through them, and we have to use our own truth meter, which is your inner voice. So just because somebody had some profound experience doesn't mean I'm immediately going to buy into it. I check with my inner voice. Does it ring true to me? Okay, am I always correct? No, because I'm still here experiencing this human life, this finite human experience with limitations. All right, so anyways, as we head into a new year, my friends, my hope is for you that you will find peace and that you will look forward to a bright future. And there is a feeling in the air of a bright future, but there's also a feeling in the air among some of a dire future, that everything is going to go to hell in a handbasket, that the evil overlords of the world, or even from the spiritual side, for some people, are going to, send us into this dystopian nightmare. What thought form do you choose? Because each thought form will create a reality, and that's how we get those timelines that I've spoken of. If this is way out there for you, I get it. It was way out there for me too, and sometimes my intellectual mind has trouble with it when I first think about it. But again, I go back to my own experiences of creating my own reality and seeing it work. And I've done some profound things with that too, yet I still sometimes fall back into my cultural programming, so to speak. So it's like a big movie, and we're creating the movie, except you're the director, the actor, the writer, and so on. And so you can take control of that. I wrote a book. I don't know if many of you know this, but I wrote a book, and it's still out there. Years ago, I had a dark night of the soul experience and so on, and I went through a traumatic experience. And so I wrote a book. I felt prompted to write a book about it, and it's called How to Become Happy, The Books of Life, Volume 1, because I was severely depressed after this traumatic experience. Anyways, I have a video on that too, where I pulled myself out of that. It was a depression where I was contemplating suicide. Anyways, you can look that video up if you want to hear more about it. I'm not going to repeat it. I have a tendency to repeat stuff that I've repeated a lot, but some of it's important, I think. So anyways, that's me, folks. That's my take on the bright future, is to look for it, to act according to the desire that you want, okay? If you're looking outside of yourself to others, psychics, mediums, NDEers, religious figures, the scriptures, whatever, if you're looking all outside yourself to find predictions and how the future is going to go, you're looking in vain. You need to look within and literally act according to your desired future, my friends. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. Happy New Year. And here's to a bright future, my friends. Peace out.